Rusting. When metal meets air and water. Imagine you leave your bike out in the rain. A few days later, the chain turns orange. That's rust, a chemical reaction called oxidation. Here's what's really happening. Iron in the metal reacts with oxygen from the air and water from rain. This produces iron oxide, the reddish-brown stuff we call rust. The reaction looks like this. To be more specific, this is iron, oxygen, water, and this is rust. Rust isn't just a cosmetic issue. It forms flaky layers that fall away, exposing fresh metal underneath, which then rusts again. Over time, this eats away the structure. That's why engineers use corrosion-resistant alloys, paints, or sacrificial layers like zinc in galvanization to protect it. Even stainless steel resists rust only because of a passive layer of chromium oxide. Baking. Turning dough into delicious chemistry. Every time you bake bread, you're watching a complex dance of chemistry. The key players: yeast, heat, and carbon dioxide. Yeast is a living fungus. It feeds on sugars in the dough and releases carbon dioxide gas through a process called fermentation. This causes the dough to rise. When the dough hits the oven, the yeast dies, but the chemistry doesn't stop. Heat triggers the Maillard reaction, a set of reactions between amino acids and reducing sugars. It's what gives baked goods their golden brown color and rich aroma. The Maillard reaction is temperature sensitive and only kicks in around 140 degrees Celsius. It's also responsible for the crust on seared meat and the flavor in roasted coffee. Don't forget baking soda and baking powder. These release CO2 via acid-base reactions, often faster than yeast, and are perfect for cakes and cookies where fermentation isn't ideal. Photosynthesis, life's most important reaction. Photosynthesis happens quietly, all around you, in every leaf, on every tree. Photosynthesis is how plants convert light energy into chemical energy. It takes carbon dioxide from the air and water from the ground, and with sunlight creates glucose and oxygen. The formula looks like this. Chlorophyll, the green pigment in leaves, captures sunlight. That energy splits water molecules, releasing oxygen and transferring electrons through the electron transport chain. That oxygen, you breathe it. That glucose, it feeds the entire biosphere. It's not just a plant thing. It's the reason anything alive exists at all. On our planet, of course. Fermentation. Sugar turns into something stronger. Fermentation isn't just for bread. It's also how we get beer, wine, cheese, and yogurt. In alcohol production, yeast consumes sugar and converts it into ethanol and carbon dioxide in anaerobic, no-oxygen conditions. For example, here we have the alcohol fermentation pattern. Fermentation doesn't require heat, only time, temperature, and the right microbes. Ancient civilizations used it without knowing the chemistry, just through trial and error. In yogurt, lactic acid bacteria break down lactose, which is especially helpful for people who are lactose intolerant. And in sauerkraut or kimchi, fermentation also acts as preservation. The best part? These reactions are self-sustaining. The microbes create the conditions they thrive in. It's a natural process that boosts flavor and nutritional value. Modern science continues to explore fermentation's health benefits and probiotic potential. Combustion, everyday fire chemistry. When you light a candle, start a car, or strike a match, you're triggering combustion, a rapid reaction between a fuel and oxygen. For example, burning propane. Combustion is exothermic. It releases energy. That energy can be light, heat, or motion. Fire is hot because of the heat released, and blue flames mean the burn is complete with little soot. Incomplete combustion can produce carbon monoxide, a colorless, odorless gas that's dangerous in enclosed spaces. That's why ventilation matters. In engines, combustion is timed precisely by spark plugs and fuel injection. It's explosive, but controlled. Cooking an egg, protein denaturation. You crack an egg into a hot pan. The clear part turns white. That's not magic, it's denaturation. Egg whites are mostly made of proteins, especially albumin. Heat unravels their 3D structure, breaking hydrogen bonds and exposing sticky inner parts. These bond with neighboring proteins, forming a tangled web, what we see as cooked egg. Denaturation also happens in other foods, searing meat, making cheese, or even adding lemon juice to fish and ceviche. It's not technically forming new molecules, but the structure changes permanently, so it qualifies as a chemical change in cooking. Milk going sour. Acidification in action. Leave milk out too long and it turns sour. That's lactic acid fermentation. Again, but this time, it's spoilage. Bacteria like lactobacillus feed on lactose and produce lactic acid. The rising acidity causes casein proteins to clump together, forming curds. That's what you see as spoiled milk, a curdled, sour-smelling mess. This drop in pH also inhibits the growth of many harmful bacteria, which is why fermentation can act as preservation. Interestingly, cheesemaking takes advantage of this very reaction, just in a more controlled way. Specific strains of bacteria, time, and temperature define the taste and texture of every cheese. Some cheeses even rely on molds and surface bacteria to develop their distinct character. The difference between gourmet brie and spoiled milk? Precision. Pasteurization slows spoilage by killing most bacteria, but once opened, milk is exposed to microbes again. Refrigeration doesn't stop fermentation, it only slows it down. Tooth decay. Acid eats enamel. Eat sugar, skip brushing, and you feed bacteria like Streptococcus mutans. They turn sugar into acid, which attacks enamel. The reaction happening there? Something like that, but it doesn't tell me or you anything, I guess. But using pictures, your enamel, once lost, doesn't regenerate. But saliva and fluoride can help reverse early damage. That's remineralization. Fluoride replaces lost hydroxide ions with fluoride ions, forming fluorpatite, which is more resistant to acid. Cavities form when the acid wins. Floss and fluoride are your best chemical weapons. Acidic pH, below 5.5, is the critical threshold where enamel begins to dissolve. Regular sugar exposure keeps the mouth acidic longer, giving bacteria more time to cause damage. Brushing right before bed is especially important, since saliva production drops during sleep. Chewing sugar-free gum can also help. It stimulates saliva, which neutralizes acid. Soap and water. Breaking down grease. Soap molecules have two ends, one that loves water, hydrophilic head, and one that hates water but sticks to grease, hydrophobic tail. When you wash your hands, the tails attach to oils, dirt, and germs. The heads stay in the water. Together, they form tiny bubbles called micelles that trap the grime inside. When you rinse, the micelles, along with the trapped dirt and germs, get washed away. That's why scrubbing with soap for at least 20 seconds is so important. It gives the soap time to break things apart and lift them off your skin. Unlike hand sanitizers, soap doesn't just kill. It physically breaks down the protective membranes of some viruses like SARS-CoV-2, making them fall apart completely. It's simple molecular mechanics. Breathing. Respiration inside you. Breathing is automatic, but inside your cells, it's anything but simple. Every breath brings in oxygen. Inside your cells, that oxygen meets glucose in a mitochondrion. Through cellular respiration, they're converted into carbon dioxide, water, and energy in the form of ATP. We could just use this equation, but I'll describe it differently. That energy fuels every heartbeat, every thought, every step. Mitochondria are often called the powerhouses of the cell because they perform this complex multi-step reaction using enzymes, transport chains, and proton gradients. And yes, when you exercise, your cells demand more oxygen, which is why you breathe faster. When oxygen runs low, cells switch to anaerobic respiration, producing lactic acid instead of CO2. And that's when your muscles start to burn. Bleaching. Breaking molecular bonds. Spill red wine on a white shirt and it feels like the end of the world until you grab bleach. Bleach contains sodium hypochlorite, NaClO, a powerful oxidizing agent. It reacts with chromophores, the parts of a molecule responsible for color, and breaks their double bonds, essentially erasing their ability to absorb visible light. Result: the color disappears. This same reaction makes bleach a disinfectant. It destroys proteins in microbial cells, killing bacteria, viruses, and fungi. But be careful, bleach is reactive. It can weaken fabrics, corrode metals, and should never be mixed with acids or ammonia. That creates toxic chlorine gas. It's most effective in cold or lukewarm water, as heat accelerates decomposition of sodium chlorite. Always use it in well-ventilated spaces to avoid inhaling irritating fumes. Digestion, a cascade of reactions. Digestion isn't just chewing and swallowing. It's a complex relay of enzymes and acids breaking food down into molecules your body can absorb. In the mouth, salivary amylase breaks starch into smaller carbs. In the stomach, hydrochloric acid drops the pH to around 1.5 to 3, which helps pepsin chop proteins into peptides. In the small intestine, bile emulsifies fats, and enzymes like lipase, maltase, and trypsin finish the job. Each enzyme has a specific role and a narrow pH window where it works. The whole system is like a factory line, where every reaction depends on the one before it. And it's all orchestrated by chemical messengers like hormones and neurotransmitters. Batteries, portable redox reactions. You're probably holding a chemical reaction right now. Lithium-ion batteries, used in phones and laptops, store energy through redox reactions, where electrons are transferred between materials. Inside, lithium ions move from the anode, often graphite, to the cathode, like lithium cobalt oxide, when discharging. When you charge it, the reaction runs in reverse. It's efficient, lightweight, and rechargeable. A major reason modern electronics are so portable. But lithium-ion batteries aren't perfect. Overcharging can cause thermal runaway, an uncontrolled exothermic reaction. That's why battery design includes safeguards like charge controllers and temperature sensors. It's high-stakes chemistry, engineered to run millions of times without fail. And if you are still here, I would like to ask you to check out my new second channel, where I will also try to upload videos regularly. The second channel will probably be devoted to discussing one topic in more depth and my thoughts on it, a more relaxed format. And if you liked this video, subscribe and check my socials where I documenting my progress journey. Link in the description. See you in the next video.